Hey there, I'm Phable. I'm a musician and sound designer from Germany, and right behind me is the astonishing Eventide H9000. The H9000 is without a doubt the most powerful multi-effects processor out there right now. You have literally thousands and thousands of presets and algorithms and different sound mangling tools at hand. It's literally crazy what Eventide packed into this rack unit. And I was searching for a lot of videos before I decided to get the H9000, and I haven't seen any videos. There's just a long manual out there, so I thought, why not show you the basic structure of the H9000 and what to expect when you have an H9000. Here we are at the front of the H9000, and if you are a bit overwhelmed with all the hardware controls, it's very easy to understand. On the left hand side we have all the general controls for the H9000, and on the right hand side we have all the controls for the effects and the settings of each of the algorithms. And then we have what Eventide calls soft keys, which have a different function depending on the menu that you're in. So let's go to the first menu item, and that is the setup menu. And in the setup menu we, as the name suggests, control everything that is generally important for the H9000. So that is, of course, the I/O settings and settings for the expansion cards. So here we are at the expansion card B menu item, and this is the MIDI input. So here I see which of the MIDI slots I am using. So this is an optical because I use the H9000 together with my RME card, and the status of the channels and if the PLL is locked. So then we can set the name of the H9000. I'll leave it at the normal general default name. And here we have the clock menu, and in the clock menu you can see that we have different options available. So right now I selected the MIDI as the clock source, and I also have selected the digital I/O for the back of the Eventide H9000 to be the AES input. And also I can see the status of the particular clocking modes. So the state now is 48K. The USB driver is detached, so I haven't opened up the emote software, and the external is locked, so my MIDI is locked. The next menu item is the tempo control. Here we see that the tempo mode is now set to internal, but we could also use the MIDI clock from the MIDI input and also the DAW input, but I leave it at internal. And then we have also some controls for the tap auxiliary switch and for the tempo, the general tempo right now. Next is the preferences, and the preferences are set for the screen generally and for the key click. So I can decide whether or not, I hope you can hear that, I want to have a key click or animations or stuff like that, but I prefer to have them off. And the next is for the pedals. So you have two pedal inputs and you can calibrate them here in the menu. And now we are at the stage for the analog reference levels for the inputs and outputs. You can choose either to have them at +4 dBu or -10 dBV for each of the stereo ins and outs. And then we are at the network settings. Generally you can connect the H9000 either via VLAN, so this is wired, or via network cable, and I have controlled them now over Ethernet cable. And also we have a software update option when the H9000 is connected to the internet. As you can see, my software is up to date, so I can't update the H9000 right now, so that's good. All right, the next menu item is the save menu, and here I can save either a session, an effects chain, or a preset. And if you look closely, we have some secondary options for the 3 menu items here, and these are activated by holding the button. So the secondary option for the save button is the import button. So let's click that now, and you can see now I can load sessions, presets, effects chains, or algorithms. So let me go out of here. The next button is the tap button. And here I can tap my tempo. If I have, for example, my band playing and I would like to know which tempo I'm in, or of course the tempo of my delays. And interestingly enough, you hit each of these times, you get a new tempo, but you can also fine-tune that with the encoder. So when you're in the tap mode, you can fine-tune the BPM. And if I hold that, we are at the scenes menu. So I haven't used the scenes right now, but generally scenes, and you have 128 available, save a state of your effects that you are currently using. This is quite I would say enhanced feature, but that's for another video, I believe. So this is just that you can have different states of all your effects routings and stuff like that. Or not the routings, but the settings of the effects. And you can switch them via MIDI and stuff like that. So really cool. The next one is mute. And the mute is either global mute, so no sound coming out of the H9000, or if you hold it, you have a global bypass. So you still have the dry signal coming from the H9000, so that you put into the H9000. So that's cool. That's the left-hand side. And as you can see, we have some soft keys here. And these soft keys are dependent on the menu that I'm in. So right now I'm in the session menu, and I can have different settings here. So I can create a new session. I could copy a session, delete a session, rename a session. I could preview a session. This is a quite important feature. So I can see, so let me go to a session here, to my session. And I can preview all the effects and algorithms, or what Eventide calls the containers, what they are in my session right now. Really cool stuff. And I have the search button. So here you can search for a particular number. This is something reminiscent of the older Eventide units. When you had the H3000, for example, you always flick through numbers. I personally never had an H3000, but some of my friends have them, and they just know the numbers that that chorus is like 64, stuff like that. So they immediately just put in the number. Okay, so on the right-hand side we have the controls for the complete architecture or the sound architecture of the H9000. So everything is built on a session, and a session is a snapshot of the H9000. So a session contains all the settings that are relevant for the H9000. So this is clocking, analog IOs, digital IO settings, mute status, tempo information if you want. So this contains everything. And a session can hold up to 4 effects chains. And as you can see, an effects chain can by itself hold 4 algorithms. And an algorithm can be everything from a delay, from a reverb preset to a noise oscillator. This is a complex structure and everything can set here within. And under the algorithms page, we have the parameters page. So here I am in the effects settings for each of the algorithms that I have loaded into the H9000, or in this case, in the effects chain. So by using the upper or lower button, I go to the main settings of the effects chain. And by using the inner buttons, I go to the submenus. So I'm here in the general menu, so stuff like that. So let's go back. Let's say I have an effects chain here, which I have here right now. And as you can see, my effects chain consists of 4 containers, and each of these containers I can edit them. So let's start from the top. Hope you can see that, but every effects chain can have its own input and output, and you can mix digital and analog. So here I have MIDI B and analog inputs mixed, and these go out to analog 1 and 2 and MIDI 1 and 2. So you are not restricted if you're using just analog IOs or just digital IOs. You can mix them in between. And this is completely cool stuff because I work in an environment where I have a mixer or have analog hardware, and I also have my RME card, and I want to hook them all up to the H9000, and you can do that. You can even use the Dante. I have a Dante expansion card here, so you could also use network audio. Really cool stuff. So let's say I'm in my effects chain and I want to change something of the order or some of the algorithms. I just go to Edit, and then I'm in the mode of the effects chain, and here I can select all the different algorithms that I have. And if I want to change some of these settings, I can either replace them. So if I go to replace, then I come to the next page where I can select different algorithms out of the H9000. And as you can see, it's quite a lot. Jesus, there are so many different algorithms to choose from. Let me go out there, and you can also delete them. I won't do that, but you can move them. So the general idea is on the top you start and then you go to the bottom. But so now these are all in serial, but I can also have some of the sounds as a parallel effect. So if I go to my mod filter and now I select the move, I can go up or down, and I can set the effects to be now in parallel state. So now they are configured in parallel mode instead of a serial mode. And this is cool because sometimes you want to just have the reverb and the chorus at the same time, and you don't want to use all of these in a serial mode. So you have a lot of flexibility. Okay, let me go back and just put the mod filter back up and go out of the move mode. Then we have the so-called expert router. And this is just that you can assign all the inputs and outputs in detail and stuff like that. This is nothing interesting right now. Here we have the presets. So for every algorithm, again, you can select the different presets that are available. And really cool is the mix page. So even though you have dry wet controls for the effects chain, you also have them for each of the algorithms. So if I go to mix, I can mix every algorithm differently with the dry and the wet controls. This is really cool stuff because that means I can work in different scenarios. Sometimes I want to have the drive control just a little bit like around 10%, or the reverb around 10%, and then just give it a bit of whiteness through the chorus, and I can easily select that here. And by the way, I think these are the settings that you can also save in the different scenes that you can control. So that's cool. And then we have the next soft key, which is mute or bypass. So if I click on mute, if I have a short click, then it's a mute. And if I go back, it's unmuted. And if I hold that, again, it's bypass. And this is also shown by the B next to the algorithm name. So hold that again, and it's unbypassed. And also a gain control. So if some of the effects are have too low inputs settings, I can dial that in. And sometimes you find that, especially with the filter, I love the filter. It's called the Filter O. It's a really nice patch, but the algorithm has too much aggression when you use the resonance. So what I do is tune down a little bit of the gain, because afterwards it gets a lot of it's a very hot signal, so I can control those settings. All right, these are the algorithms. If I now go back to the effects chains mode, essentially you have the same settings that I showed you in the algorithm. So I can also mix the general effects chain. So if I say, hey, I have everything full loaded, I just want the effects chain to be around 50%, I can set it here. That's really cool. And again, also I can mute or bypass the effects chain. So let's do a quick rundown. An effects chain consists of up to 4 algorithms. An algorithm can be everything from a reverb or a delay or stuff like that. And everything then is saved in the session, and the session consists of everything, the routing and the settings and the scenes, and that's it. So that's pretty straightforward, I would say. The interesting part is that once you understand this principle, you're really fast to work, because you develop a very quick muscle memory, because literally everything is the same. So they are really good. The Eventide guys were really good at deciding how to set up the menu structure, because once you understand it and you go up or down in the session or in the algorithms page, it's always the same. So that's really, really cool. Hey guys, the battery of my camera died, so let's continue now with the parameters again. So what I wanted to show you was, generally we can flick through the different settings of the algorithms that we have selected. So again, we have the algorithms selected for the particular effects chain, and if we go to the parameters page, we are then in the settings page for each of the algorithms. So what's interesting is that Eventide has a really loves detail. So every effect has its description and tagging system and everything. So you never really have to touch the manual, because you see what every parameter is doing in the description of the effect. So that is really cool. On the right hand side for the parameters, you have some really nice soft key functions. So quick map is the first one, and what quick map does, so it's loading right now, so let's go down a page so you see that better. What quick map is doing is opening up a learn function. So you can learn a MIDI change or a MIDI control for the particular parameter that you can select here. So that's really cool. So you have a quick map function. If you have an external MIDI controller and you would like to map your effects, you can do that here in the quick map. And another great function is the random. The random, as its name suggests, just alters the settings for each of the menu settings, but for all of them. So I had random, and now you see that you get a completely different configuration and completely different settings. And that's really cool for creativity purposes, because sometimes you tend to work in a very what Eric Clapton called the box. So you set your effects to a particular value because you're in that comfort zone, and this gets you out of that comfort zone. And the next one is function. It's like a page for different control settings and mappings, and it's really flexible. Haven't used that right now, but maybe in the next video if you guys are up to that. So generally what we have always for an effect, and again you can always use the outer ones to on the left hand side to switch between the main entries, and then the inner soft keys to flick through the individual pages. You always have the general page, which gives you controls for mix, input gain, output gain, tempo mode, mute and bypass, and then you get to the individual settings. So here I have the H9 mod factor open up, and again here I can control every setting that I have here with the encoder, and it's really easy to navigate. So that's it, really. If you have questions about the general settings, or you would like to hear certain parameters or certain effects or algorithms, let me know that in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you next time.